Standing amidst a graveyard of fallen soldiers, the lone survivor stares down his target. Rodri looms over Ash, his voice dripping with cold, calculated authority as he speaks, demanding to know why his subordinate abandoned the Eastern squad. He radiates pure menace. Ash clutches his side, bloodied and broken, but his eyes burn with a lethal intent, watching the boy with detached interest. Rodri shows the classic signs of a terrible father. Pointing out the obvious betrayal, Ash calls him out for using his men as bait. Looking his father dead in the eye, Ash finally drops the mask of the loyal soldier. Laughing off the accusation, Rodri mocks his son's struggle with the label of the Wingless. Ash stands his ground, a man pushed to the absolute edge of his sanity. House Elmheim's emblem glows, a symbol of power that clearly did not trickle down to him. Rodri sits on his throne, the continent's greatest martial artist and a total deadbeat dad. Flashbacks reveal the bitter truth. Rodri saved him from a blizzard only to ruin him. Everything Ash did was to repay that debt. But the cost was his humanity. Memories of his past tormentors flood back, proving that bullies are truly everywhere. Those snide brats sneer at his lack of a wing emblem, classic elitist trash behavior. Stripped of his birthright, Ash was branded wingless while his brothers flaunted their stolen power, training like a maniac. He kept swinging his blade despite the world telling him no, pushing his body to the limit. He turns sweat and pain into his only weapon. Gritting his teeth, he keeps grinding because hope is a dangerous drug for the desperate. Back in the present, Ash prepares to settle the score with the man who ruined him. Ash watches from the shadows, his eyes narrowing as he realizes he's been completely set up. Surrounded by an ambush in the freezing snow, he finally understands his father's twisted game plan. Confronting Rodri, Ash demands to know if this betrayal is the reward for his lifelong loyalty. Rodri sneers at the boy, treating him like a broken tool that's finally outlived its usefulness. Lunging forward with a desperate strike, Ash refuses to go down without one last defiant swing. Burning with pure rage, he attacks the man who shattered his entire world. Steel clashes against steel in the blizzard, but the gap in their power remains painfully obvious. Rodri barely even flinches, his smug grin proving he's barely trying against his own son. Trapped by glowing red chains, Ash gets dragged down by the very people he once trusted. Blades flash through the air, slicing through his defenses and leaving him bleeding in the snow. Screaming in agony, he refuses to break even as his body reaches its absolute physical limit, mocking his struggle. His brother laughs at the pathetic sight of a wingless boy fighting back. Standing over the broken Ash, the trio looms like vultures waiting for the final death blow. Clutching his wounds, he gasps out a question about why he was ever saved in the first place. Rodri crouches down, his cold words cutting deeper than any blade as he denies any lingering affection. Grabbing Ash by the hair, the tyrant forces his son to look at his own failure. Explaining his true motive, Rodri reveals he only wanted the power hidden inside the boy's body. Stunned by the revelation, Ash realizes his entire existence was just a harvest for 7 wings. Reaching out with a cruel hand, Rodri admits he used Ash's mother as a mere breeding experiment, leaving the broken boy in the snow. The villain walks away, satisfied with his monstrous harvest. Ash reaches out in the blizzard, desperate for answers from the man who ruined him. Rodri looms over his broken son, blade ready to finish the job with zero remorse. Darkness closes in as Ash feels the biting cold. His life slipping away in snow, dying thoughts race through his mind, wondering if this is really the end of everything. Silence falls over the frozen landscape, a lonely death for a man used as bait. White light blinds him, but he wakes up feeling strangely warm instead of freezing cold. Confusion hits hard when he realizes he's not in the afterlife. Fingers twitching in the cold, he questions how this impossible regression could even be real. Staring at his own reflection in the ice, he accepts the absurd truth. He's a baby. Beside him lies a woman, motionless in the storm, leaving him completely alone and vulnerable. Instinct kicks in as he activates his senses, scanning the area for any immediate threats. Horsemen gallop through the blizzard, hunting for the woman and the child she once carried. Soldiers shout orders, clearly working for Rodri to track down the infant at all costs. Visions of the tyrant haunt his mind, realizing he's being hunted by his own father. Memories of his past life surface, confirming he's been sent back to the very beginning. Determination hardens his gaze, because being a baby does not mean he's going down without fighting. Survival is the only goal now, before the Duke's men find him in this snow. Ash reaches out through the freezing snow, desperate to keep his tiny infant body moving. Pushing past the biting cold, he forces his small hands to drag him across ice. Every inch feels like a marathon, his internal fire barely keeping the frost at bay. Gasping for air, he struggles to maintain focus while his lungs burn in the wind. Dragging his body forward, he leaves a long, pathetic trail through the deep, white powder. Knowing he has to survive, Ash refuses to let this second chance end in failure, swearing vengeance against Rodri. He keeps crawling despite the absolute absurdity of his current situation. Sliding across the vast, empty landscape, he looks like a speck lost in the storm. Suddenly, a pair of boots appears in his path, stopping his slow, agonizing progress cold. Looking up, he sees a young girl calling out to her father in the distance. This man approaches, a noble from House Hifried, clearly confused by the strange, snowy scene, picking up the frozen infant. He wonders how a baby ended up in this wasteland, cradling the exhausted boy. The noble feels the lingering warmth of Ash's desperate, magical struggle. Staring into the baby's eyes, he realizes there is something deeply unusual about this child. Noticing the long trail in the snow, the man is shocked by the distance crawled. Holding Ash close, he questions the origins of this mysterious, resilient little survivor. Meanwhile, Ash drifts in a hazy, golden void, wondering where his consciousness has landed. Seeing a bright light, he feels like he is being pulled into a new life, waking up with a start. He finds himself being poked by a curious, tiny hand, surrounded by a group of children. He realizes he has been adopted into a family. Ash wakes up surrounded by a bunch of kids, totally confused by this weird situation. A lady tries to hold him down, but our boy is not having any of it. Breaking free with a desperate lunge, he tries to escape the clutches of these strange people, scrambling across the floor. He desperately reaches out for a way to get away from them. Panic sets in as he wonders what the hell is happening to his life right now. Sprinting away, he finds himself being chased by the group through the halls like a fugitive. Suddenly, he accidentally triggers some kind of wild, golden energy surging from his tiny little hands. Launching himself into the air, he realizes he's actually tapping into some serious raw magic power, floating helplessly. He struggles to keep his balance while glowing with that intense, golden light. Plummeting toward the roof, he screams internally because he has zero control over this flight path, bracing for impact. He grits his teeth as he crashes down toward the cold, hard ground, landing right in front of a mysterious man. He realizes he's been caught in the act, staring up at the stranger. He recognizes the face and his mind starts racing. Identifying the man as the long-lost brother of his terrible father, he feels a chill. Looking at the estate, he realizes he stumbled into another branch of the cursed Elmheim house. Observing the man closely, he notes the noble bearing of the head of the branch family, recalling history. He remembers this guy was supposed to be dead after the old civil war. Seeing a portrait of the family, he realizes the timeline is completely messed up and wrong. Darkness fills his vision as he processes the sheer insanity of his current, impossible reality. Finally accepting the truth, he realizes he has somehow been sent back to the distant past. Ash is reeling from the irony. He tried to escape the Duke, only to get rescued. This lady holding him wonders if his accidental flight was just wild, uncontrolled magic power. She tries to soothe the infant, completely unaware he's a battle-hardened man in a tiny body. Ash stares back, his eyes holding the weight of a life spent being used as bait. A noble steps into the room, his gaze locking onto the baby with intense, calculating interest. Reaching out, he senses the massive, hidden energy radiating from the small, helpless-looking infant. He uncovers the mark on Ash's skin, the undeniable proof of the power he possesses. Both adults stare in shock at the 7 wings. A symbol of legendary, terrifying potential. Ash panics internally, wondering how this cursed mark followed him into his new, tiny life. He realizes the bitter truth. His father only wanted him for this exact, harvestable power. Memories of Roderick's cold, cruel grip flashback, reminding him exactly why he's so angry. That same hand that once discarded him now haunts his thoughts even in this infancy. Ash realizes the tyrant only saved him to eventually strip away these 7 wings. Rage boils over in his tiny chest because being wingless was just the start of it. This lady keeps holding him, oblivious to the fact that she's cradling a vengeful soul. The noble considers his next move, his eyes cold as he weighs the boy's value. Ash knows he's in deep trouble. He can't let this new family hand him to Elmheim. He vows to keep this power for himself, using it to eventually settle the score. This man decides to adopt him, likely seeing a golden ticket instead of a child. Patting Ash's head, he dismisses the baby as a flightless chick, totally underestimating his target. This noble patriarch promises to protect the infant, acting like he's actually a decent guy. Ash stares on, his golden eyes sharp and alert, already planning his next big move. A sudden tumble lands the baby on the floor, causing a minor stir among the sisters. Those girls crowd around, fussing over the fallen infant like he's some kind of precious doll. Worry fills their faces, completely oblivious to the fact that Ash is just playing along. Mother steps in to scoop him up, playing the doting parent role with practiced ease, curious about his identity. She asks for a name, setting the stage for his new life. Smiling down at the bundle, she decides on a moniker that sounds way too hopeful. Astor becomes his new name, a star born into a family that has no clue. 10 years fly by in a blink, and the estate is buzzing with intense activity. Lord Hifried arrives, looking every bit the powerful noble with his entourage in tow. Astor steps out of the carriage, his posture calm and collected despite the heavy tension, looking sharp in his formal gear. He carries himself like a veteran of many wars, helping his sister Finn down. He keeps his guard up while playing the perfect brother. She thanks him with a bright grin, unaware of the dark history lurking behind him. Both siblings walk toward the gathering, their bond looking solid enough to weather any storm. This sword dance festival kicks off. A flashy display of martial prowess for the elite young swordsmen show off their fancy footwork, desperate to prove their family names mean something. Footsteps echo on the stone as the nobles arrive, ready to flex their political muscles. Everyone converges in the courtyard, the air thick with secrets and the smell of trouble. Whispers ripple through the crowd as the elite gossip about the Viscount's mysterious adopted son. Shadowy figures watch with glowing eyes, clearly annoyed that House Elmheim's reputation is being tarnished. Ash stands before the massive estate gates, fully aware of the judgment raining down upon him. Finn warns him to keep his cool, knowing exactly how brutal this social circle can be. Clenching his fist, Ash remembers the harsh reality that weakness is a death sentence here. Standing side by side, the siblings prepare to face the wolves waiting in the courtyard. Lord Hifried introduces the Viscount's current standing. His tone dripping with a mix of pride, gesturing toward the grand estate. He asks if Ash is impressed by the display of power. Ash keeps his expression neutral, hiding the burning fire of his past life behind calm eyes. Smirking internally, he tells his father that the cold atmosphere suits him perfectly, a total lie. Laughing off the response, the noble seems satisfied, completely oblivious to the danger standing right there. Memories of his humiliating past debut flood back, reminding Ash of the bitter, painful failure, glowing with newfound energy. He vows that this version of himself will rewrite that history. Walking toward the center of the arena, the trio draws every eye in the entire gathering. Determination hardens his gaze as he prepares to turn this social debut into a total spectacle. High above, the crowd watches as the sword dance begins in an era of knightly dominance. Ash grips his blade, his face showing the grit of a man who refuses to lose. His opponent lunges with a flashy strike, desperate to prove his own worth through raw power. Steel rings out as they clash, the golden energy of the arena lighting up the night, trading blows with precision. Ash shows everyone that true fame is earned through cold, hard skill. Aster and his opponent clash midair, their blades meeting in a flash of pure intensity. Focus shifts to the glowing mark on his hand. The secret source of his hidden power. Sparks fly as he parries, proving that raw talent beats their fancy, inherited noble techniques. Everyone watches in awe, realizing the wing emblem is the only thing that truly matters here. That glowing sigil pulses with energy, a constant reminder of the potential he's forced to hide. High above, the family observes the spectacle, completely oblivious to the danger lurking in their midst. His sisters look on with disdain, clearly not fans of the high-stakes drama unfolding below them. Ulfin checks on Aster, her concern genuine while he keeps his guard up, always ready, asking if he's nervous. She misses the fact that he's basically a war veteran inside. Aster plays it cool, claiming the atmosphere feels nostalgic, which is a total hilarious lie. Confusion washes over her face as she tries to read the guy she thinks she knows. Lord Hifried steps away for a meeting, leaving his precious kids to fend for themselves. Ulfin reminds him she's the older sibling, but Aster just brushes her off as clumsy. Their father gives him a firm pat, urging him to network with the other elites. Whispering a cold warning, he reminds Aster to keep those 7 wings under deep wraps. Standing on the balcony, Aster watches the crowd, already plotting his next move against them. Dark shadows loom in the background, their glowing eyes tracking his every single step now. Thinking to himself, he realizes socializing in this hostile territory is a complete impossible joke. His golden eyes narrow, scanning the room for any sign of his father's lingering influence. Ulfin calls out as he walks away, but Aster is already done playing the part. Aster walks into the lion's den, his mind set on a very fake social mission. Inside the lounge, the usual suspects are lounging around like they own the entire world. Dariz eyes him with that classic arrogant sneer, demanding to know who this intruder is. Aster plays the part perfectly, greeting his past killers with a smile that hides pure venom, introducing himself as the adopted brother. He watches their reactions with a cold, internal detachment. Dariz looks genuinely annoyed, clearly not thrilled that some random kid just crashed their private party. Gurion pipes up with a mocking tone, pointing out the kid from the Viscount's house. Realizing the connection, Dariz laughs at the name, finding the whole situation hilariously beneath him. Memories of his past life flash, reminding Aster exactly who these 2 entitled brats are. Watching them act tough, he realizes they are just children playing at being dangerous adults. This spotlight hits them, exposing their pathetic, posturing behavior for everyone in the room to see. Aster's eyes glow with a sharp intensity, his patience wearing thin as the insults fly. Ulfin tries to drag him away, sensing the tension is about to snap into violence. Dariz keeps pushing, asking if she needs to hide behind her father to feel safe. Smirking, he commands them to stay and entertain the main house, acting like a total tyrant. Ulfin freezes up, feeling the weight of their social status pressing down on her shoulders. Suddenly, she finds her spine, flatly refusing to play the servant for these arrogant snobs. Aster steps in to hold her back, his grip firm as he keeps his cool. Their hands lock in a moment of silent solidarity, a quiet vow to stand together. Aster stares ahead, his expression unreadable as he prepares to dismantle their little power trip. Ash drops the mask, his grin radiating pure, unadulterated chaos for the entitled brats. He calls out their father's pathetic failure to protect the king, hitting where it hurts. Ulfin stands there, stunned as Ash drags their family's dark, bloody secrets into the light. Disgust drips from his words, making it clear he wants nothing to do with them. Ulfin screams for him to stop, but the tension in the room is already snapping. Ash does not care about their threats, ready to burn every bridge in this fancy lounge. Insults fly about her lack of status, but he's already moved past their petty games. Dariz tries to act tough with a drink, unaware he's about to lose his cool. Ash tells the girl to brace for the mess. His eyes locked on the target, anxiety vanishes, replaced by the cold, calculated focus of a man who's done playing nice. He stares them down, feeling absolutely nothing but the urge to wreck their fragile egos. Reaching out, Ash snatches the bottle right out of their hands with zero hesitation. Ulfin watches, terrified, as her brother prepares to dismantle these arrogant, highborn little snobs. Calling out Dariz, he tosses the bottle into the air with a casual, lethal grace. Dariz looks up, his smug expression crumbling as the bottle descends toward his own head. Ash delivers the final verdict on their character, his voice cold as a winter grave. Wine explodes everywhere, drenching the brat in a sticky, humiliating mess of his own making. Standing over the pathetic, soaking mess, Ash holds his blade with a calm, terrifying authority, wiping a drop from his lip. He mocks the cheap drink like a true savage, smirking at the chaos. He asks if the grape juice suits a child noble perfectly. 3 years back, Aster unleashes a golden explosion of raw, untamed power during his training. Ulfin rushes to his side, weeping as she begs him not to hurt his sisters. Panic fills the air while Aster struggles to contain the dangerous energy radiating from him. Everyone stares in disbelief. Realizing he somehow possesses the legendary forbidden power of 7 wings, Rodrik watches with cold, calculating eyes, wondering if his son can actually control that force. Aster questions his own limits, his glowing gaze locked on the man who ruined him. Suddenly, a subordinate bursts into the meeting room. Shouting about a dire, urgent emergency, Rodrik snaps at the interruption, annoyed that his high-stakes meeting is being disturbed by nonsense. News arrives that the main house and branch house sons are currently locked in combat, shock registers on their faces as they realize the implications of this unexpected public duel. Rodrik storms out, his cape billowing as he marches toward the scene of the chaos. Ulfin runs to catch up, her voice trembling as she asks what is happening here. A smug noble points out the spectacle, clearly enjoying the drama unfolding in the courtyard. Crowds gather to watch the rare sight of a sibling squabble within House Elmheim's walls. This nobles observe from the balcony, waiting to see who comes out on top today. One observer looks visibly nervous, sweating as he realizes the situation is spiraling out control. That same smug noble grins, predicting the upcoming sword dance festival will be incredibly rough. He mocks Aster, calling him a strayborn mongrel who lacks any real inherited noble power. Raising his blade, the opponent flaunts his 4-winged emblem, basking in the crowd's loud cheers, taunting Aster. He demands to see the boy's own wing emblem to prove his worth. Aster stands his ground, mocking the red-haired noble for his pathetic, desperate need for attention. With a cold, sharp smirk, he refuses to play along with the guy's arrogant little game. That noble's face turns bright red, his eyes burning with pure, unadulterated rage at the insult. Aster sets the stakes high. If he wins, the brat is apologizing to his sister, lunging forward with a wild, sloppy strike. The noble tries to crush him with raw force. Sparks fly as their blades collide, the sheer impact shaking the entire room with intense energy. Aster remains perfectly calm, his posture locked in a defensive stance that screams veteran combat experience. Watching the clash, he analyzes the noble's predictable movements with a bored, detached sort of focus. This red-haired brat screams about the power of the elite, clearly compensating for his massive insecurity. Another heavy swing whistles through the air, missing Aster by a hair as he effortlessly dodges. Ulfin watches from the balcony, her heart pounding as she calls out to her brother nervously. A smug noble observes the fight, sneering that the brat's sword skills are honestly just garbage. He notes that the guy's magic power is the only thing keeping him from total defeat. Comparing wing power to candle flames, he realizes the gap between them is absolutely massive. Aster watches the brat unleash a flashy, hollow explosion. Unimpressed by the lack of real skill, taunting the guy, he asks what happened to all that loud, annoying bravado from before, blocking another strike. He demands to know if the brat's threats were just empty, pathetic talk. This noble loses his mind, charging in with a desperate, suicidal attack to prove his worth. An observer smiles, realizing the match is already over despite the brat's frantic, flailing final efforts. Aster prepares to end this farce, his blade ready to dismantle the guy's fragile ego. This opponent loses his composure completely, his face twisting into a mask of pure shock. Calmly, Aster shuts him down with a cold remark about his endless, pathetic chatter. Steel rings out as Aster parries a desperate strike, his golden aura dominating the arena. Standing tall, he radiates a terrifying, focused intensity that makes the entire crowd go silent. Blades dance in a blur of motion, Aster waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Golden energy erupts from his sword, overwhelming the red-haired noble's defenses in a blinding flash. Crashing to his knees, the arrogant brat realizes his footing has completely betrayed him now. Watching from the sidelines, a witness gasps in horror as the power gap becomes undeniable. Aster presses the advantage, his blade locking against the opponent, as he forces him back. Panic sets in for the noble, his 4-wing pride shattering under the weight of defeat. Aster stares him down with cold, golden eyes, showing zero mercy for the entitled brat. Whispers ripple through the onlookers, stunned that the supposed underdog is actually dominating the duel. Golden flames swirl around the combatants, highlighting the massive disparity in their raw magical skill. Nobles in the crowd exchange nervous glances, realizing House Elmheim has a monster in hiding. Aster channels his hidden energy, the sheer pressure of his presence crushing the opponent's spirit. Lord Hifried watches from the balcony, his face darkening as he realizes the situation is. Gritting his teeth, the red-haired noble struggles to hold his ground against the incoming storm. Aster's opponent begins to crack under the pressure, his frantic laughter turning into desperate whimpering. Golden light consumes the arena, signaling the final, overwhelming move that will end this farce. Begging for mercy, the brat finally realizes he's completely outmatched by the boy he mocked. Aster unleashes a golden surge of energy, shocking everyone watching from the balcony above. That raw power tears through the arena floor, leaving his opponent in a complete daze. Rodrik looms in the background, his expression unreadable as he observes the sudden, violent display. Aster stands firm, his blade discarded as he prepares to finish this humiliating social lesson. This red-haired noble sits in a puddle of his own making, looking absolutely pathetic now. Aster leans in with a cold, savage suggestion that his cousin should just wear rags. Turning his back on the crowd, he declares that he is no longer the wingless Ulfin watches with wide eyes. Her face a mix of terror and awe at his transformation, Aster feels a strange sense of clarity, his mind finally free from the past's heavy. Golden eyes burn with intensity, signaling that he is done playing by their rigged rules. Red energy pulses across the room, casting a dark, ominous shadow over the entire gathering. Aster realizes the true threat has arrived. His focus shifting to the man approaching him, Rodri descends the stairs, his presence radiating a suffocating pressure that makes the air heavy. Aster whispers the tyrant's name, his heart racing as he faces his ultimate past tormentor. Whispers erupt among the nobles, who cannot believe a branch family kid just crushed them. Footsteps echo on the cold stone, signaling that the situation has spiraled into real danger. Aster stands his ground, the eighth head of the main house finally staring him down. That red-haired brat looks up from the floor, his ego shattered beyond any easy repair. Aster locks eyes with the powerful noble, refusing to flinch despite the massive power gap. Rodri glares back, his cold, calculating gaze promising that this conflict is only just beginning. They arrives, his aura radiating pure, suffocating malice as he stares down our boy. Aster stays grounded, his knuckles white as he prepares for the inevitable, ugly confrontation. Kneeling before the tyrant, the red-haired brat begs for his father to intervene immediately. Pointing a finger, he screams that Aster is nothing but a filthy, defiant little mongrel. Rodri listens with cold, detached interest, clearly unimpressed by the pathetic display of his kin. Aster's hand slams into the stone, the impact creating a shockwave that rattles the room. Blood stains the floor, a grim reminder that this duel was never just a game. Panic flashes across the red-haired brat's face, realizing he's completely out of his league now. Rodri mocks the loser, sneering at how he managed to drag their name through dirt. Cruelty drips from his words as he claims those who fail deserve no further mercy. Ulfin screams in terror, desperate to stop the tyrant from ending her brother's life today. Rodri raises his blade, declaring that the weak have no right to hold a sword. Steel meets steel as Aster blocks the strike, his eyes burning with a defiant fire. Refusing to back down, Aster demands that the brat finally apologize to his sister. Calling him uncle, he asks if the punishment can wait until after that simple request. Rodri scoffs at the notion, questioning if being an orphan makes him an Elmheim member. Standing tall, Aster asserts that the pride of a knight is what his father taught. Silence hangs heavy in the air. While the onlookers watch the tension reach a breaking, Rodri looms over him, claiming the Viscount's house has damaged their reputation beyond any repair. A nearby noble watches, realizing this conflict is far too dangerous to be called child's play. This noble patriarch looms, his condescending tone dripping with that classic arrogant authority. Aster watches him with a calm, detached smirk, clearly unimpressed by the posturing. Rodri's brother interjects, dropping a dark reminder about the heavy price of past defiance. Aster feels the cold steel against his neck, his golden eyes burning with intensity. Keeping his cool, he offers a sharp, polite retort that cuts through the tension. He clarifies that this was a legitimate duel, not some petty, childish sibling squabble. Aster reminds the uncle of his own brutal philosophy. Those who cannot avenge themselves fail. Ulfin trembles in the background, watching the situation spiral into a dangerous public confrontation. This noble mocks Aster's age, finding it hilarious that a 10-year-old is causing trouble. Rodri's eyes flare with a dangerous crimson light, his patience finally snapping under pressure. He draws his blade with a lethal grace, signaling that the games are over. Stepping forward, the tyrant commands Aster to prepare for a very one-sided, brutal lesson. Aster shifts into a defensive stance, his instincts screaming as he faces the monster. Panic vanishes, replaced by the cold, sharp focus of a veteran ready for war. Rodri launches a devastating strike, the sheer force of his swing shattering the floor. Ulfin gasps in horror, realizing her brother is now fighting for his very life. Screaming the tyrant's name, Aster lunges into the fray with a desperate, defiant energy. He leaps high into the air, his blade tracing a lethal arc against gravity. Steel crashes against steel, the impact sending shockwaves through the entire silent grand hall. Aster executes a mid-air strike, forcing the tyrant to block his surprisingly powerful assault. Panic erupts as Aster takes the hit, his foster father rushing in to check him. Dust settles on the cracked floor, marking the spot where their intense clash just ended. Shock registers on the foster father's face, seeing the damage inflicted on his adopted son. Silence stretches across the hall, the weight of the confrontation hanging heavy in the air. Aster stands battered but defiant, his blade still gripped tight despite the brutal physical toll. Golden eyes burn with a fierce, unyielding intensity, proving he is far from finished yet. Rodri watches with a cold, calculating gaze, his expression unreadable as he surveys the scene. Turning his head, the tyrant dismisses the chaos with a look of pure, arrogant disdain, walking away. He leaves the wreckage behind, his cape flowing like a dark, ominous shadow. Aster struggles to stay upright, his foster father supporting him while the tyrant makes tracks. Concern fills the man's voice as he calls out, desperate to ensure his son survives. Aster manages a grim smile, claiming he kept his promise to protect their family honor. Nodding slowly, the foster father acknowledges the display was impressive, if entirely too reckless. Observers watch from the balcony, their hushed whispers tracking the tyrant's cold, calculated retreat. One noble mocks the move as childish, though he clearly recognizes the underlying dangerous power. Another agrees, noting that letting the brat talk would have ruined the main house's reputation. Astor is now the talk of the elite, a rising star who survived the Duke. Gossip spreads like wildfire, with nobles wondering if the Elmheim house is about to fracture. Roderick senses the coming upheaval, his eyes glowing with a dark, prophetic, and ominous light. Ulfin rushes to Astor's side, her worry palpable as the family gathers to regroup together. Sunlight streams down on the training grounds, setting the stage for another intense session. Astor stands ready as his peers watch, their faces pale from witnessing his brutal efficiency. Steel clashes against wood, the force of the impact sending shockwaves through the dusty air. Astor grins, his eyes sharp and focused as he delivers a single, chilling word: splendid. Young Master Astor commands the space, his presence alone making the other trainees visibly nervous. Whispers ripple through the crowd, noting how his training intensity has skyrocketed since the festival. Observers gossip about his recent beatdown of the Duke's son. Clearly enjoying the main house's humiliation, Astor listens to the chatter, feeling a grim satisfaction as he prepares for his revenge. Moving with lethal grace, he demonstrates the power he's been hiding from these arrogant nobles. Every strike is calculated to silence the critics who once mocked his family's low status. Elmheim remains his ultimate target, but for now he's just testing the limits of his strength. Parrying another blow, he realizes he still needs more control before facing his past tormentor. Memories of his previous life haunt him, reminding him that he cannot defeat Roderick yet. Swinging his blade, Astor understands that the wing emblem is just a gauge for magic. Red energy flares around him, a dangerous reminder that raw power is useless without control. Golden light erupts from his core, yet he still struggles to unleash the 7 wings. Astor disarms his opponent with a swift, brutal motion, leaving the guy scrambling for footing. Golden eyes narrow, his gaze piercing through the chaos as he searches for a challenge. Standing over the pile of defeated trainees, he coldly asks if anyone else wants trouble. Turning toward the voice, Astor realizes he might have pushed his training a bit too far. Ulfin strolls up, dropping the news that the patriarch wants a word with Astor. Meanwhile, Astor stands in the middle of a training yard littered with unconscious bodies. He glances at her outfit, clearly surprised to see her dressed for serious combat duty. Ulfin just shrugs off his confusion, acting like she's got a point to prove today. Astor notes how rare it is for her to ditch the cute look for armor. She admits that watching him fight made her realize she can't just stand around anymore. Suddenly, she swings a wooden blade at him, catching our boy completely off his guard. Grinning, she tells him he's going to be her personal sparring partner for a while. Astor just laughs it off, totally unfazed by the sudden challenge from his own sister. Looking at the carnage, he jokingly begs her to take it easy on him today. Later on, he knocks on the heavy office door. Ready for that awkward fatherly chat, entering the room, he finds the patriarch waiting in the dim, serious office light. This man tells him to sit, his face unreadable as he prepares to drop news. Astor takes a seat, his golden eyes sharp as he waits for the real motive. Reminiscing, the patriarch asks if it's really been 10 years since the adoption took place. He admits he wanted to wait longer, but circumstances have forced his hand right now. A velvet cushion appears on the table, holding a ring that screams massive political weight. This patriarch confirms it's the official seal, the undeniable proof of the next house head. Astor stares at the ring, his golden eyes glowing with the weight of this burden. Sitting in the silence, he realizes the Viscount house is walking a razor-thin line now. House Elmheim's branch family faces a massive burden, tasked with protecting their territory at all costs. This patriarch knows the seat of the next house head cannot remain vacant for much longer. Astor wonders if his sisters will actually buy into this sudden, high-stakes political shift. His father notes the sisters return in 3 days, promising a formal announcement to the family. Astor mentally braces for the fallout, knowing Marfa and Kudo will definitely lose their minds. He knows Kudo specifically will be furious, given her deep-seated hatred for his 7 wings. Being born a man with that legendary mark makes him a target for her constant spite. Astor finds the whole situation unacceptable, his internal frustration mounting as he sits there. He struggles with his own lack of control, still haunted by nearly harming his own sister, lacking confidence to handle a furious sibling. He sits in the office feeling totally outmatched. This patriarch admits he has long doubted whether Astor is truly just a regular child. He pulls out a mysterious box, deciding to skip the festival reward for something far greater. Astor watches closely as his father presents the gift, clearly expecting something life-changing. His golden eyes widen in shock, instantly recognizing the immense power radiating from the box. Inside lies the demon sword Graham, a legendary blade capable of controlling his 7 wings. They head to a secluded forest clearing, far away from the fragile walls of the estate. Astor asks why they could not just use the dojo, but his father insists on this precaution. This patriarch reminds him that he has a nasty habit of wrecking the house during training. He explains that Graham is a sacred heirloom, traditionally inherited only by the eldest son. Astor prepares to test the blade, the magic-eating sword finally within his desperate, capable reach. They stares at the weird, blade-less hilt, wondering if this is some kind of joke. His father demonstrates, pouring raw magic into the handle until a crimson blade erupts outward. This weapon is basically a magic-powered construct, relying entirely on the user's own internal reserves. Massive energy surges through the clearing, the sheer intensity of the blade shaking the forest. Trees sway as the power ripples out, leaving the ground scorched from the sudden discharge. Warning him, the patriarch notes that weak magic will just get the wielder drained dry. Aster takes the hilt, his golden eyes locked on the weapon with a mix of curiosity. Gripping the handle, he feels the cold steel bite into his palm as he prepares. Magic flows from his core, the air around him igniting with a fierce golden aura. Suddenly, the blade manifests as a blinding, winged construct that nearly overwhelms his own senses. Energy pours into the weapon automatically, the sword acting like a hungry, bottomless void now. A beam of light shoots straight into the sky, visible to everyone across the estate. Guards back at the base panic, wondering if a comet just crashed into the woods. Ulfin watches the sky, her expression shifting from confusion to a sudden, sharp, knowing realization. She whispers Aster's name, sensing that her brother is behind this massive display of power. Aster sits in the dirt, laughing at the sheer, outrageous potential of this legendary weapon. His father stares back, his face pale as he processes the scale of that surge. Looking up at the sky, he admits that the sheer volume of power is terrifying. Aster realizes that his seven-winged emblem is something completely unprecedented in their family's long history. This patriarch predicts he will eventually surpass every six-winged swordsman, including himself and even Rodri. Aster stares down his past self, vowing to crush the man who ruined everything. Power like his is a double-edged sword, sparking trouble everywhere he dares to go. Glowing with seven wings, he knows the world will hunt him down for that mark. Jealousy and greed will turn everyone into a predator, waiting for his one fatal slip. Enemies will swarm to eliminate him, seeing the kid as nothing but a dangerous nuisance. His father reaches out, urging him to grab strength before his own regrets consume him. Taking that hand, Aster accepts the grim reality of his path. No turning back now. Gripping his father's hand, he swears off the miserable, weak life he lived before today. Thanking his father, he commits to mastering both his wings and the legendary demon blade. 3 days later, the family gathers at the estate, welcoming the sisters back home again. Kyudo bursts through the doors, her energy hitting the room like a chaotic, red-haired storm. Reaching out with a grin, she demands a reunion hug from her adorable little sisters. Marfa gets swarmed by the others, leaving Kyudo to wonder why she was left out. Looking around the hall, Kyudo complains about being ignored while the others share a hug. Everyone knows the truth. Kyudo ruins their hair, so they keep their distance for safety. Denying the accusation, she claims her perfect chivalry would never allow such an undignified act. Ulfin watches the drama unfold, her eyes tracking the chaotic sister with a weary sigh. Suddenly, Kyudo tackles Ulfin in a crushing embrace, ignoring all pleas for personal space now. Ulfin screams in protest, trapped in the suffocating, affectionate grip of her overbearing older sister. Looking over the mess, Marfa wonders where Aster is, blissfully unaware of the coming storm. This family patriarch eyes Aster, clearly thinking about the boy's messy, high-stakes potential. Aster keeps his guard up, his golden eyes scanning for the next inevitable threat. Crimson energy erupts from the ground as he struggles to contain his volatile, hidden power. Wind whips around him, the sheer force of his magic tearing through the forest clearing. Sweat drips down his face, the strain of channeling such raw energy becoming painfully obvious. Holding the hilt, he realizes that even a magic sword can't fix his lack of control. Rocks shatter under the pressure, leaving him wondering how he'll ever match his father's strength. Kyudo strolls into the woods, her arrival cutting through his intense, solitary training session like butter. Aster freezes, caught off guard by his sister's sudden appearance while he's still holding Graham. Smirking, Kyudo teases him for being cold, her tone dripping with that classic, arrogant charm. She brings up the sword dance festival, noting that everyone is still whispering about him. Aster plays it cool, complimenting her recent missions while trying to hide his own exhaustion. Kyudo flashes her honorary knight medal, a shiny reminder that she's the family's golden child. She admits that success is the only way to prove her worth as the successor. Narrowing her eyes, she demands to know why he rejected the offer to lead them. Aster tries to explain his lack of qualifications, but his father's shadow looms over him. Kyudo sighs, clearly annoyed by the drama surrounding her brother and their father's secret plans. She gripes about them being mean, knowing full well her own dream is on the line. Suddenly, she swings her blade with lethal precision, forcing Aster to snap back into focus. Steel flashes through the air, and just like that, the sparring match is officially on. Aster dodges a massive strike, the ground shattering as his sister Kyudo brings the heat. Panic sets in for our boy, wondering why his own sister is suddenly trying to murder. Kyudo stands there, looking ready to test his skills with a very real, very sharp blade, grinning like a maniac. She promises to strike for real. Zero holding back on the kid. Aster pleads for a timeout, shouting that his legendary demon sword is still totally incomplete. Kyudo scoffs at his excuse, asking if he'll tell the battlefield enemies to wait for him. Stunned by her cold logic, Aster realizes his sister is playing for keeps in this spar. Kyudo drops a lecture on knightly mindset, threatening to crush him if he keeps acting soft. Aster can't believe her intensity, especially since he is still struggling to control his own magic. Trying to focus, he finds himself completely overwhelmed by the sheer output of his internal energy. Desperation forces his hand, and he summons a surge of red power to survive the onslaught. Kyudo lunges with her glowing blade, clearly intent on testing his limits with lethal, sharp force. Explosions rock the forest, the sheer power of their clash tearing through the peaceful green woods. Kyudo mocks his sword skills, bragging about how much she leveled up at the Knight Academy. Aster counters with his own blade, wondering what kind of imitation weapon she is even using. She slams him with a critique on his magic control, calling his technique absolutely non-existent. Kid Aster gasps, realizing that his sister Kyudo has zero mercy for her own little adopted brother. Kyudo stands tall in the clearing, her presence radiating the same cold, intense vibe as always. She reminds him that he is the only male with succession rights in their house. Unfortunately, Aster grumbles about being special, knowing his seven-wing emblem makes him a target for her spite. They dodges his sister's relentless assault, calling her a storm that never stops fighting. This forest floor gets absolutely shredded by their clash, proving she is his natural enemy. Aster keeps his focus sharp, his golden eyes locked on the chaos unfolding before him. Sparks fly as he parries her strike, the sheer magical output shaking the entire woods. Kyudo screams that he is unfit to lead, her rage fueling every single aggressive swing. Back at the estate, Ulfin watches through the window, worried about her siblings killing each other. Their father stands nearby, casually mentioning that sibling quarrels can sometimes turn lethal. No biggie, he claims they are just good rivals, dismissing the danger as if it were nothing. Ulfin looks visibly shaken, clearly hoping her father is right about this volatile family dynamic. She asks why they were recalled from the academy, suspecting more than just successor talk. This patriarch pulls out a mysterious item, the tension in the room spiking instantly now. Ulfin stares in disbelief, her eyes widening as the truth of the situation finally hits. A formal summons from the main house rests on the table, sealed in red wax. Dark silhouettes loom over Aster, the elders of the main house demanding to see him. Ulfin realizes the gravity of the situation, knowing this is a truly serious, dangerous matter. Their father admits the worst-case scenario. They might actually lose Aster to the main house's schemes. Back in the woods, the siblings continue their brutal spar, blades clashing in a blur. Aster shouts that he already refused the successor role, questioning why she is still attacking. Kyudo swings with pure frustration, declaring that his refusal is exactly what she hates most. They collide again, the air crackling with energy as their sibling rivalry reaches a breaking. Kyudo brings the heat, comparing Aster's defensive style to a lumbering, mindless troll. Steel clashes with a blinding flash, their blades locking in a desperate, high-stakes stalemate. Aster snaps back, begging his sister to actually listen to him for once today. She mocks him for running away, her eyes burning with that familiar, intense frustration. Energy erupts as she unleashes a massive strike, tearing through the forest floor instantly. Aster stumbles back, gasping at the sheer, overwhelming brute strength behind her relentless assault. Kyudo lectures him, claiming that swinging a sword alone makes him a total amateur. She stomps forward, insisting that handling magic power only makes him a second-rate fighter. Standing amidst the wreckage, she declares that true mastery requires balancing both sword and magic. Disappointment drips from her voice as she stares down her brother with cold eyes. A vision of their wing emblems appears, highlighting the massive threefold gap in power. She points out that with 5 wings, she is technically 2 levels below him. Kyudo scoffs, noting that he still avoids direct strength contests to rely on swordsmanship. With a sharp grin, she questions if he actually trusts his own legendary power. She digs deep, asking if he is still terrified of losing control like before. Aster freezes, his golden eyes widening as he processes her biting, personal jab. He looks at his blade, wondering if he was subconsciously suppressing his own strength. This sword flickers, and he realizes his instability comes from his own forced restraint. Kyudo admits with a pained expression that he possesses everything she ever truly wanted. She lashes out, furious that he would let such incredible fortune rot in arrogance. Kyudo lunges with everything she has, screaming for Aster to hand over his power. Aster grips the hilt, his face showing the toll of this intense, high-stakes duel. Red energy explodes outward, a massive shockwave that forces his sister to recoil instantly. Kyudo stares in disbelief, shocked that the kid actually managed to repel her strongest strike. Aster grins with a cold, sharp intensity, thanking her for finally helping him wake up. Charging forward without a blade, he leaves his sister wondering what his next move is. Panic flashes across Kyudo's face, fearing he might have just burned through all his energy. Aster raises the hilt, channeling the terrifying, inexhaustible magic hidden deep within his 7 wings, pouring power only at the moment of impact. He bypasses the need for constant maintenance. Kyudo sneers at his half-hearted strategy, still convinced he is just winging it as usual. Aster remains focused, determined not to waste the second life he grabbed by pure chance. Red wings flare from his back, a visual testament to the power he now commands. Family and status flash through his mind, everything he struggled to obtain in his life. Kyudo looks stunned, realizing her brother is playing a much deeper game than she thought. Therefore, he unleashes a devastating strike, tearing through the air with absolute lethal precision. Aster moves with a blur of motion, his golden eyes locked onto his target's movements. Sparks fly as his blade connects, leaving Kyudo completely speechless at the sudden, violent shift. Vanished from her sight, Aster reappears in a flash, his legendary sword ready to strike. No more holding back, he finally taps into the true potential of his demon blade. Crimson light consumes the clearing, signaling that our boy is done playing by their rules. Waking up in a cold sweat, our red-haired fighter realizes she is finally back home. Gazing around her room, she wonders how she even ended up back in her own bed. Marfa greets her with a calm smile, noting that she has finally decided to wake up. Pulling back the curtains, Marfa casually mentions that the red-haired girl took her sweet time sleeping. Panic hits as she remembers the intense sparring match. Desperately asking what happened with Aster's duel, Marfa explains that Aster was the one who carried her back, playing the hero once again. Apparently, Aster claimed she just passed out from exhaustion, a classic cover story for his sister sitting up. She knows that is a total lie because she felt his blade coming down, recalling the terrifying moment. She admits she genuinely thought she was about to be sliced apart, but Aster actually dispelled his magic blade right before the impact, showing some serious hidden restraint. Only the residual energy brushed past her, leaving her shaken by how close she really came. Thinking it over, she realizes there is no way Aster would ever actually kill his sibling still. That split second of pure murderous intent from him was enough to make her blood run, grumbling to herself. She calls him a disagreeable little brother for being so much stronger now. Marfa interrupts her thoughts, asking if Aster is seriously going to start another match right away. Standing up with her gear, she declares that she absolutely refuses to accept that last result. Marfa drops the bomb that Aster has already left, making her quest for a rematch impossible. Stunned by the news, she stares blankly, wondering why he would just take off like that. Marfa reveals that a formal summons from the main house arrived specifically addressed to young Aster. Realizing the danger, she looks absolutely horrified as the gravity of the situation finally sinks in. Whispers of a sudden, mysterious summons echo through the halls, catching everyone completely off guard. A carriage rolls through the estate, carrying Aster toward a meeting he never wanted. Aster stares out the window, his golden eyes calm despite the massive, looming political threat. This patriarch explains that the shadow elders of House Elmheim are finally making their move. Dark, ominous silhouettes gather in the distance. Representing the true, ancient power of the house, worry lines the patriarch's face as he questions why these reclusive elders are acting now. Aster calmly suggests that his little festival stunt is the obvious reason for this trouble. Tales of the elders' brutal obsession with reputation make the situation feel like a death trap. He notes that those who fail the family name are usually fed to literal beasts. This patriarch looks genuinely concerned, asking where Aster picked up such grim, dark rumors. Aster shrugs, telling him he is fully prepared to face either execution or total banishment. Concern deepens in the patriarch's eyes as he asks why Aster is traveling completely alone. Aster insists it is fine, having planned his departure to avoid any unnecessary family drama. He jokes that Kyudo will be much happier if he is not around to annoy. Gripping his demon sword, he admits that his recent training has finally unlocked real potential. Aster tells his father that he is ready to face whatever comes on his own. This patriarch is stunned by the kid's sudden, cold confidence, calling him out on it. Suddenly, the carriage rocks as a familiar, chaotic energy slams into the side of it. Kyudo bursts into the scene looking absolutely furious that Aster tried to sneak away again. She literally chased the carriage down, proving that her obsession with him is truly unmatched. Kyudo corners Aster, calling him out for trying to ditch the family without saying goodbye. Their father sighs, knowing the main house summons is a trap they can't easily dodge. Sitting together, the siblings acknowledge the gravity of the situation as the tension keeps rising. Kyudo's eyes narrow, sensing that this specific summons is a crisis demanding extreme total caution. Dark rumors swirl about the main house, with whispers that Aster might never return alive. Aster plays it cool, brushing off the doom and gloom while admitting his safety's uncertain. Pointing a finger, Kyudo admits she hates him for his special treatment and 7 wings. She vents about his unfair advantages, claiming he's always been the one treated like royalty. Jealousy drips from her words as she resents his strength and his unnerving adult composure. Aster stays silent, absorbing her outburst while knowing she still views him as precious family. Their father watches the emotional exchange, reminding Aster that he's still just a little brother. Kyudo demands he returns safely, already itching for a rematch to settle their unfinished business. She warns him not to quit while he's ahead, promising she won't forgive him otherwise. Suddenly, Kyudo leaps into the moving carriage, refusing to let him face this nightmare alone. Aster stares in shock, realizing his rival sister is actually tagging along for the ride. A small smile forms on his face, genuinely grateful for her chaotic, unexpected show of support. Kyudo waves a dramatic farewell, shouting that she'll definitely be back after this whole mess. Arriving at the main house gates, Aster and his father are greeted by cold guards. Armored soldiers block the path, stating the Grand Elder is already waiting for their arrival. Aster tries to walk in alone, but the guards insist on escorting them both inside. They and his father arrive, sensing the main house atmosphere is colder than a grave. Our boy keeps his golden eyes sharp, ready to deal with whatever nonsense comes next. Standing before the ancestral estate, he finds the whole place hauntingly nostalgic and deeply unsettling. Guards watch them like hawks, their presence confirming this is not a friendly family reunion visit. His father warns him to keep his cool, no matter how much they try provoking. Aster knows the real problem is the main house itself, a den of vipers waiting. Getting ready for the main event, he wonders who exactly they are about to face. Meanwhile, the injured trainees are still out of commission. Nursing their pride and broken hands, Aster stays focused, his golden gaze piercing through the tension as he prepares for war. Playing the part of the obedient kid, he smiles while hiding his true, lethal intent, keeping his promise to his sister. He stays silent, letting his father lead the way. Heavy doors creak open, revealing a hall that feels like a trap closing in tight. Guards announce their arrival, the sheer arrogance of the main house echoing in the hall. Walking down the long red carpet, Aster feels the weight of 10 years of history. A voice booms from the throne, recognizing the patriarch and his grandson with cold disdain. Kneeling before the elders, the patriarch shows the proper, forced respect for the 6th head. Aster bows his head, standing in the presence of the ancient power that rules them. Darkness swallows the room, the pressure mounting as the true monster reveals his presence now. Golden eyes lock onto the shadow, identifying the real threat lurking within the main house. Zenith A. Elmheim sits on his throne, a terrifying legend finally stepping into the light. This high-ranking executives of the Elmheim house gather, their presence radiating pure, suffocating authority. Aster recognizes familiar faces from the festival, his internal alarm bells ringing at the setup. Scanning the room for his rival, Aster wonders why Rodri is nowhere to be found. This elder on the throne shuts him down, calling him a brat while he kneels. He notes that Rodri is busy serving royalty, far too important for these petty matters. This old man claims they are handling the administrative duties, acting like they're doing favors. Aster reflects on his past life, realizing he never stood a chance to see them. Watching the executives, he notes that the retired leader still holds a terrifying amount sway. When asked about the vulgar matters, the elder smirks, confirming Aster already knows the answer. He insults Aster's recent performance, referring to him as nothing more than a pet dog. Aster recalls the massive power surge he unleashed, realizing it's the source of their ire. His father tries to defend him, insisting that Rodri already settled the festival incident personally. This elder scoffs at that, arguing that a public performance does not fix their tarnished reputation. Dark shadows loom as they decide that banishing the adopted boy is the only solution. Aster snaps, standing up to defend himself and insisting he acted entirely on his own. He pleads for his father's innocence, desperate to keep him out of this political crossfire. His father remains silent, bowing his head as the weight of the situation crushes him. This elder mocks Aster for his lack of discipline, scolding him for interrupting the adults, boasting about their 12,000 knights. The elder reminds everyone who truly holds the power they claim the Elmheim name, but Aster knows these knights are far from a monolith. These elders are basically vultures circling the throne, hungry for any scrap of power. They claim they want peace, but their eyes scream that they want total control. A cane taps the floor, the sound echoing like a death knell in the hall. Suddenly, a weapon is thrust forward, forcing the patriarch to face his past failures head-on. That glowing blade is a brutal reminder of the day he lost his arm. Rodri was the one who did the deed, leaving the patriarch broken and forever shamed. This grand elder screams for blood, demanding they finally finish the job on Aster. Our boy stares back, his golden eyes burning with a mix of shock and rage. Refusing to bow, he stands tall while the patriarch kneels in the red-stained dust. Aster's father swears he would rather die than let them touch his own son. This elder just scoffs, clearly unimpressed by this pathetic display of parental noble devotion. With a sharp strike, he signals the end of their patience, and their mercy death threats fly, the elders promising to wipe out the entire family for good. Chaos erupts as the house is declared dissolved, guards swarming them with steel drawn, blades press against their throats. The tension in the room hitting an absolute breaking. Aster looks at the Grand Elder, his voice dripping with cold, mocking, sharp curiosity. He calls the old man out for being terrified of a mere pet dog surrounded by swords. He tells them to do their worst, banishment or death, whatever, but he warns them that touching his family is the one line they cannot cross. Apologizing to his father, he finally snaps, ready to unleash hell on these ancient fools. Guards lose their minds, staring at the glowing mark on Aster, back in total shock. That seven-wing emblem pulses with raw, terrifying energy, marking him as a complete anomaly. Aster stands firm, knowing these wings just turned him into the main house's biggest target. Cold eyes track his every move, the tension in the room thick enough to choke. Surrounded by blades, Aster remains calm while the elders scramble to process his hidden power. Panic ripples through the executives, questioning if such a legendary crest could even be real. One elder stammers in disbelief, recognizing the mark as something that should not exist anymore. Contempt drips from the Grand Elder's voice, dismissing Aster as nothing but a troublesome brat, pointing their swords. The guards demand to know if he understands the gravity of this. Aster just grins, sarcastically noting that people always get surprised by his extra wing count, laughing off the threat. He watches the elders squirm in their high-backed, fancy chairs, polite but lethal. Aster asks them to keep talking while he stands in the crosshairs. This Grand Elder drones on about ancient spirits, trying to sound wise while acting petty. Shadows illustrate the history of their power, showing how humans stole magic from the ancestors. Nobody has ever reached 7 wings, making Aster a living, breathing, and very dangerous mystery. Aster cuts through the lecture, bluntly asking if they think he belongs to that clan. This elder confirms his suspicion. While the guards tighten their grip on their sharp blades, Aster stares down his accusers, his golden eyes showing zero fear despite the steel points. Stepping forward, he declares his loyalty to the Viscount house, ignoring their pathetic, elitist games. Challenging the entire room, he asks if they are actually ready to make an enemy. Aster ponders his exile, knowing other martial clans would kill to claim his 7 wings. He warns the elders that keeping him close is their only defense against his power. Civil war looms if he leaves, a massive conflict that would shatter the entire country. Aster stands his ground, determined to identify his allies before the situation turns truly lethal. This Grand Elder scoffs, mocking the boy's perceived worth with a cold, dismissive, arrogant laugh. Doubt fills the hall as the elder claims the 7 wings are just a myth. Aster dares them to kill him, promising that his death would ignite total, absolute war. He baits the elders, wondering if they are brave enough to actually take the risk. Tensions spike as the elders hesitate, their own greed clashing with their fear of him. Count May steps in, his smooth, manipulative tone cutting through the heavy, suffocating room air. He suggests a trial, a perfect way to test the boy's strength without immediate bloodshed. May smirks, eager to see the seven wings in action while the other elders watch. He promises that deciding Aster's fate will be much easier once the trial is finished. This count invites Aster to prove his worth, playing the role of a helpful ally. Maze insists that Aster is an asset, not a threat to the main house's power. Aster remains calm, his golden eyes locked on the count as the blades stay drawn. This Grand Elder finally agrees, signaling for them to follow him into the dark depths. He claims it is his duty to teach the disrespectful grandson a much-needed lesson. Aster enters the damp, pitch-black trial grounds, wondering what kind of trap awaits him inside. Deep beneath the estate, the group descends into a fortified bunker connected to the waterways. This elder reveals their secret bunker houses a single, lethal magic beast for this trial. Aster's father sighs, clearly annoyed that his son's seven wings are causing such massive trouble. Stepping into the cage, Aster realizes this is the perfect chance to finally show off. His father warns him to stay sharp, because these people are definitely playing for keeps. Swinging into the dark pit, Aster prepares to face whatever nightmare they have locked away. Watching from above, the Count wears a smug grin, clearly enjoying this twisted little game. Walking through the damp, dark tunnel, Aster notes it is exactly as gloomy as expected. Glowing with his own inner light, he confirms that he can see just fine here. Looking up at the grate, he realizes they actually gave someone else a previous chance. A discarded, broken soul lies in the dirt, a grim reminder of their past failures. Suddenly, the massive blue beast emerges from the shadows, ready to tear him to shreds. This elder shouts down, demanding that Aster does not disappoint them during this lethal little test. Roaring with pure, unadulterated rage, the beast lunges as the trial officially kicks into gear. Aster feels genuine pity for the creature, trapped in a house infested with literal monsters. Preparing for the clash, he keeps his focus, knowing this fight is far from over. Dodging the beast's massive swipes, he dances around the arena with speed and lethal grace. Watching from the sidelines, the guards look absolutely stunned by his quick, agile combat style. Aster mutters that his sister Kudo is way scarier. Keeping his cool despite the danger, purple energy flares around him, signaling that he is finally ready to get serious now. Eyes widening in shock, he realizes something is wrong as the beast's power shifts suddenly. Aster stares down the monstrous beast, realizing this is not just some random wild creature. That glowing undead horror roars, its presence confirming the main house is truly twisted. His father watches from behind the bars, shocked that such a nightmare exists down here. This elder smirks, admitting they use this thing to dispose of bodies like common trash. Trapped in the cage, Aster realizes he's the latest test subject for their sick experiments. These guys really treat their own dungeon like a convenient, magical waste management facility. Honestly, a nervous official notes that even top-tier knights struggle to capture such a lethal beast. This elders discuss Aster's potential death, acting like his seven wings are just cheap jewelry. Looking up at the gallery, Aster knows they are waiting for him to finally crumble. That cold-hearted elder claims his death would actually be more convenient for their political agenda. Aster stands silent, his golden eyes scanning the room while they laugh at his fate. He realizes they are just putting on a show, hoping to break his spirit today. This beast lunges, forcing Aster to dodge as red energy flares around his own blade. Slashing at the monster, he finds zero feedback, the creature's hide feeling like solid stone. Regenerative powers make this undead nightmare even worse than the standard, run-of-the-mill monsters. Clearly, Aster grips his sword, knowing he needs more than just brute force to end this. Holy fire or sunlight are the only real ways to purify such a cursed thing. Common sense dictates running away, but he's currently locked in a cage with no exit. Orthodox tactics will not cut it, so he decides to stop playing by their boring rules. Channeling his seven wings, Aster prepares to unleash his true power to prove his worth. Aster unleashes a massive crimson strike, determined to crush the undead beast with raw power. Ground shatters under the sheer force of his impact, sending debris flying into the air. Watching from above, the patriarch gasps at the display, stunned by the seven-wing energy output. Panic ripples through the onlookers as they scramble to see if the kid actually survived. That cold-eyed elder peers into the pit, his expression unreadable as he waits for results. Aster stands amidst the swirling dust, his golden eyes locked onto the monster's next move. A grim look crosses the elder's face, clearly disappointed that his trap failed to kill. Swiftly dodging a lethal swipe, Aster maneuvers with a grace that defies the cramped space. Purple energy crackles through the air, marking the beast's desperate attempt to regain the advantage. Stumbling back, Aster takes a hit, the monster's strength proving to be no joke today. That blue beast looms over him, its glowing eyes radiating a hunger for his soul. Desperate, his father screams out, fearing the worst as the creature closes in for blood. Lord Hifried coldly tells him to stay back. Mocking the idea of saving a failure, fury burns in his father's eyes, refusing to just stand by while his son perishes. Calmly, the Count intervenes with a smug grin, enjoying the chaos unfolding in the pit. He notes that Aster still has a trick up his sleeve. Watching with twisted interest, grinning through the pain, Aster realizes his plan is finally clicking into place right now. This beast looks slightly thinner, its dark energy beginning to drain away under his pressure. Channeling his power into the hilt, Aster prepares to deliver the final, decisive blow. Crimson light erupts as he drives his blade home, ending the nightmare once and for all. That undead beast gets absolutely shredded, its form dissolving into a dark, bloody mess. Aster stands amidst the carnage, declaring he will keep repeating this until they die. Crimson energy swirls around his blade, the sheer output tearing the very air apart. Watching from above, the Patriarch realizes this is not just a technique, it is something else. Chains of raw power lash out, obliterating the surroundings in a massive, chaotic display. Panic breaks out among the onlookers, fearing the entire underground chamber is about to collapse. Guards scramble to lead the elders away, desperate to escape the impending structural doom. This Grand Elder stares down, his eyes widening as he processes the terrifying raw output. Aster looks up with a sharp grin, questioning if they are finally impressed by him. Back in the hall, the Count sits in the dust, wondering what on earth happened. Silence fills the chamber as the smoke clears, leaving everyone searching for the magic beast. That Grand Elder confirms the truth. Aster wiped the immortal undead into absolute nothingness. Our boy remains in the center of the pit, his energy still crackling around him. Observers realize this was not a calculated move, just a pure, overwhelming flood of magical force. When asked if he did that, the Patriarch shakes his head, denying any direct involvement. Pride flickers in the father's eyes, admitting he is genuinely stunned by his son's growth. Count Maze steps forward, asking the Grand Elder if the kid passed the lethal trial. Hesitation marks the Elder's face, but he admits that nobody present has any real objections. Calling down to the pit, the Count announces that Aster has officially passed the test. Aster stands alone in the wreckage, noting that the chains from earlier are still active. They jokes about being stuck in the vortex, asking for a rope to climb out. That old Patriarch watches from the window, questioning if Aster is sure about his choice. Aster stands his ground, refusing the main house succession and wanting to keep his distance. This elder mocks his humility, clearly not buying the act for even a single second. Ambition burns in Aster's eyes, something the old man claims he simply cannot hide away. He accuses Aster of planning to turn his blade against House Elmheim when the time comes. Aster is stunned, asking if the elder is actually worried about Roderick's head right now. This old man waves it off, claiming he has no interest in probing his true motives. Confused, Aster asks why the elder would care if the rebels are their common enemies. He retorts that they are not a monolith, hinting at the deep cracks within them. Shadows loom as the elder admits Roderick is headstrong. But Aster's existence is a useful deterrent. A warning follows. If Aster ever bares his fangs again, he will face the consequences. Aster scoffs at the monster geezer, realizing just how deep the main house's rot goes. His father asks what they said, and Aster confirms he rejected their offer of welcome. Shock hits the father's face, clearly not expecting his son to be that bold today. Count Maze steps in, lamenting that Aster missed out on a much easier, pampered life. He claims Aster would have seen better days, but Aster calls him out by name. Maze laughs, acting like he only helped earlier because he felt like being a jerk. Aster stares him down, unimpressed by the Count's transparent, petty, and manipulative little games. Maze drops the hammer, declaring Aster the official child of the Seven Wings from now. Count Maze locks eyes with Aster, dropping the act to reveal his true, predatory interest. Vultures in the main house circle, debating whether to use or discard our boy Aster. Maze keeps his hand on Aster's shoulder, acting like a mentor while plotting his future. Aster stares back, questioning if the Count is just another shark in these dangerous waters. Smiling like a snake, Maze claims recruiting talent is just part of his daily routine, pointing toward the other elites. He notes that everyone here is playing the same game. Bidding farewell, Maze insists that Aster enroll in the academy to further their twisted plans. Aster feels the chill, wondering if he can actually trust this guy as an ally. Patting him on the back, the Count suggests they finally head home after the chaos. Promising to brag about Aster's performance to his sisters, the Count keeps the pressure on. Aster laughs nervously, joking that his mother might actually faint when she sees his injuries. Meanwhile, a knight reports that young Darius died during the trial, a grim expected outcome. Hifried's father reacts with cold intensity, demanding to know what happened with the other summons. That same knight notes the father seems indifferent, hinting at a much deeper, darker secret. Folding his hands, the leader confirms the Seven Wings are finally back in the house. Shocked by the revelation, the knight realizes the elders knew about this power all along. Aster stands tall, his energy threatening to collapse the delicate balance of House Elmheim forever. Fearing the fallout, the knight asks if they should intervene before things get truly messy. Dismissing the concern with a wave, the leader orders them to leave it be. House Elmheim has survived worse, he declares, clearly unfazed by the potential for total destruction. This patriarch kneels before the throne, plotting to eventually snatch Aster's 7 wings away. He decides to let the kid run wild for now. Enjoying the show from afar with a cold glare, the old man fixates on Aster, the child of the 7 wings. 4 years later, the crowd gathers at the Knight Academy for the high-stakes entrance exam. Applicants rush to finish their paperwork, desperate to secure a spot in the elite ranks. Someone spots Aster in the crowd, whispering about the legendary rumors surrounding the mysterious guy. Skeptics doubt it is really him, expecting a much tougher-looking warrior to show up instead. This registration form warns that the Academy bears zero responsibility for any gruesome, fatal accidents. An official demands Aster present his wing emblem to prove he has enough magic power. He stares at the paperwork, confused by the name Aster F. Elmheim on the document. This official pauses, clearly rattled by the mention of the powerful and feared Elmheim house. Aster shrugs, noting his emblem is in a tricky spot that is hard to show. Flashing a cocky grin, he asks if his face is enough to pass the gate. This academy grounds loom large, packed with hopefuls dreaming of a future as royal knights. A random guy shouts at Aster, trying to get his attention in the crowded hall. He calls Aster out for looking way too smug for someone who clearly does not belong. Vigor Smates introduces himself, questioning why a total stranger is wandering into the wrong place. He points to the crest, bragging that this venue is strictly for the elite candidates. Aster ignores the lecture, casually walking past him while Vigor tries to stop the guy. Vigor rants about the grueling path to glory, unaware he is barking at a monster. Some random bully starts trash-talking Aster, acting like his sword is just a toy. He keeps yapping about sightseers, clearly unaware he is picking a fight with a monster. Bystanders recognize the bully as a serial pest who never learns his lesson. Unfortunately, whispers spread through the crowd as they realize who is actually standing right there. Aster just stands there, looking bored while the rumors of his 7 wings circulate. Suddenly, a familiar face steps up to greet him, acting all friendly and fake. Gurion makes his grand entrance, flashing a smile that hides a mountain of daggers. He calls Aster cousin, mocking the mystery of his birth with that smug, arrogant grin. Aster keeps his cool, dropping a casual comment about Darius meeting his end recently. Gurion laughs it off, calling the dead guy a disgrace who deserved his fate. He admits he hated the guy too, proving that loyalty is dead in this house. Warning Aster not to underestimate the main house, he tries to flex his authority. He leans in close to whisper that Aster has absolutely no one left to protect him. Other examinees watch the tension, realizing they are stuck in a nightmare of family drama. This original bully starts sweating bullets. Realizing he is way out of his depth here, he finally puts the pieces together, stuttering as he realizes who Aster really is. Aster just stares him down, letting the weight of the Elmheim name sink in, keeping it casual. He tells the guy that Aster is fine, no need for formalities. An official takes the stage, preaching about courage while looking down on provincial knights. He shouts about serving the king, oblivious to the absolute chaos brewing right below him. Candidates scream their loyalty to the king, desperate to prove they are not just dull blades. High above, the academy tower looms, demanding everyone treat this exam like a brutal battlefield. Aster stands in the crowd, internally mocking the absurdity while finally returning to this place. He recalls the path to knighthood was once denied to him, but now he's back. Apex ruler Rodri A. Elmheim watches from the shadows, still holding all the real power. Aster glares at the commander, mentally telling him to wait because he is coming soon. Roderick stares back with intense, red-eyed focus, clearly sensing the threat Aster now represents today. Determination hardens Aster's gaze, knowing he must crush this selection exam to reach his goals. Suddenly, the first test begins as spears rain down from the ceiling like lethal rain. Chaos erupts instantly, with a candidate getting skewered right in front of a Aster. Bodies drop as the trial of the Arrow Tower turns into a total slaughterhouse. Only the last one standing will win, while spears continue to hunt the remaining hopefuls. Panic spreads among the survivors who have absolutely no idea how to handle this nightmare. Screams echo as everyone tries to run. But the spears are far too fast, honestly. Veterans try to group up and block the projectiles. Clinging to their last shred of hope, Aster watches from the sidelines, noting that the veterans actually know how to survive here. Survival rates are pathetic, hovering around 30% despite all their desperate, frantic defensive tactics. Spears continue to find their marks, proving that basic countermeasures will hit their limit fast. Examiners watch closely, waiting to see who can actually display the power of a wing. Aster remains standing, ready to show the overwhelming ability that only a true emblem achieves. Panic erupts as the deadly spear rain turns the exam hall into a total slaughterhouse. Aster stands perfectly still, mocking the desperate candidates while they dodge for their lives, gripping his blade. He prepares to show everyone exactly why he's a total anomaly. Crimson energy erupts from his sword, creating a massive swirling vortex of pure power. Onlookers stare in absolute disbelief, watching as their lethal trap gets completely dismantled by him, deflecting every single spear with ease. Aster grins, daring the entire room to attack. Red magic flares around him like a violent storm, shredding the incoming projectile barrage. Watching from the ground, a rival can't help but wonder what kind of monster he is. Sweat drips down their faces as they realize not a single spear is touching him. An examiner watches the display, stunned that Aster is spinning his magic into an airflow. Clad in a literal storm of energy, he stands tall while the chaos continues. Silence finally falls over the arena, leaving the survivors wondering if the nightmare is over. This instructor notes with a grim expression that more candidates survived than he originally anticipated. He shouts out to the survivors, pointing at the carnage as a brutal reality check. Those still standing are officially declared the winners. Having barely survived the first deadly exam, no time is wasted as they are ordered to follow the guide to the next. One exhausted candidate complains about the demon instructor. While Aster just walks on by, Aster mocks the senior for being completely winded after such a simple little warm-up. Frustrated, the senior asks why he is acting so nonchalant after that insane, lethal display. High above, the observer watches, shocked that Aster shows zero signs of fatigue after that. Aster stands ready, the seven-wing legend finally about to show his true, terrifying combat potential. Gurion watches from the shadows, his smug face hiding a desperate plan to sabotage the kid. Secret orders are whispered to Gurion. He must stop Aster from becoming a knight at all costs. Sweat beads on Gurion's brow, the weight of the Elmheim house legacy crushing his fragile nerves. Instructors demand everyone swap their personal weapons for standard-issue blades, a classic move to ensure fairness. Aster eyes the generic sword with suspicion, wondering why the academy is suddenly changing the rules. Some random candidate shrugs it off, claiming middle-class gear is all the same for their level. A sharp-eyed peer notes that Aster's unique blade is clearly being confiscated for safety reasons. Obviously, Aster grips the new hilt, his golden eyes scanning the area for any sign of trouble. Gurion saunters over, mocking Aster for supposedly taming a retainer to do his dirty work today. Aster fires back, calling out the guy for being a mere successor to a minor house. Threats fly as Gurion warns the countryside noble that wagging his tail will lead to pain. This terrified noble scrambles to distance himself, swearing he has absolutely no connection to Aster here. Aster just smiles, finding the whole display of cowardice and family drama pretty hilarious. Honestly, tension thickens in the forest as the candidates realize the atmosphere is turning deadly, for real. An instructor steps up, announcing the second exam is a team-based battle for territorial control. Flags mark the camps, and the goal is to occupy 2 or more before the bell. Violence is officially authorized, the blades serving as permits to cut down anyone in their way. This instructor holds up the colored flags, ready to assign the teams for this brutal brawl. Gurion smirks as the teams are revealed, already plotting how to turn the exam into hell. Aster stands in the arena, his eyes sharp as he surveys the competition ahead. That smoke signal rises, marking the official start of this brutal, high-stakes survival exam. 3 flags per camp are up for grabs, and he knows the rules are unforgiving. His teammate questions the math, realizing only one group can actually pass this deadly trial. Panic sets in as they realize they are likely going to clash with House Elmheim. Aster keeps his cool, though he clearly senses the heavy weight of the coming storm. That nervous candidate admits they are terrified of the main house and their ruthless retaliation. Fear ripples through the group as they realize the consequences of crossing such powerful elites. A smug noble warns that pointing a sword at House Elmheim is basically career suicide. Brutal reality hits them. The main house would happily massacre their entire family for a slight. Aster listens to their defeatist talk, wondering if they are already planning to just quit. This weakling scoffs, claiming Aster could never understand the desperate struggle of a commoner knight. Isolated in the team battle, Aster moves out, his speed cutting through the tense air. Shadows of the tyrant clan loom as the main house continues to pull every string. That same candidate keeps whining about his feelings, acting like his cowardice is a virtue. Aster laughs it off, knowing that to everyone else he is just another Elmheim target. Silence hangs over the forest, and he wonders why no one has started fighting yet. Suspicion grows as he scans the area, questioning if they are waiting for a trap. A mysterious figure emerges, shocked that our boy actually walked into this setup all alone. Everything is playing out exactly as the mastermind predicted, leaving Aster in a tight spot. Aster stares in total disbelief, wondering why his own camp flag just got snatched. That smug rival stands there, casually holding the stolen flag like it's a souvenir. He tosses the fabric aside, inviting Aster to join him for some forced company. Confusion hits our boy, his golden eyes narrowing as he processes this sudden, weird move. Standing amidst the chaos, he demands to know what the hell is actually happening here. Other candidates watch the standoff, sensing that the real battle is about to explode. Gurion makes his presence known, promising to show his cousin how the main house fights. Sparks fly as blades clash, turning the second exam into a high-stakes, violent brawl. Rules dictate that only one team wins, making this flag-stealing game a total nightmare. Aster demands answers, his sword glowing with that signature, dangerous, 7-wing energy. He calls out the rival, asking why he is suddenly waving the red team's flag. That guy just grins, clearly enjoying the chaos he's stirring up in the arena. An alliance has been formed, he claims, linking his own interests with House Elmheim. Christopher Nolan enters the fray, a 5-wing prodigy who survived the first trial unscathed. Observers note that only 2 candidates stayed calm during the initial deadly arrow rain. Aster and Nolan lock weapons, their power levels creating a shockwave that rocks everyone. This instructor watches, lamenting that both of these talented kids cannot possibly pass together. Clashing steel rings out. As Aster questions the logic behind this bizarre, sudden alliance, he points out that only one team can win, making their partnership totally doomed. Smirking, the rival reveals he's already sent his comrades to crush Aster's home base. Aster realizes the main house is playing dirty, putting his allies in the crosshairs. That rival mocks him, comparing their clash to a carriage running over a pedestrian. Every step in this hierarchy feels designed to keep the commoners beneath their boots. Blades lock as the noble tries to enforce his status with a heavy, arrogant strike. Aster winces, feeling his standard-issue blade crack under the pressure of their intense magical duel. Suspicion hits him. The examiners definitely handed him a piece of junk on purpose. Obviously, that blonde rival keeps yapping about a fair duel, while Aster just wants him gone. Insults fly about Aster being a show-off, but he is clearly not in the mood. Steel screams as they trade blows, the tension in the arena hitting a fever pitch. Aster catches a flying shard, his golden eyes burning with a mix of annoyance, really. Swiftly, he counters the rival's strike, showing off the speed that makes him so dangerous. Surprise flashes across the blonde guy's face as his rhythm gets completely disrupted by Aster. Aster turns his back to sprint away, leaving the rival fuming and screaming for him. Priorities shift as Aster realizes he has bigger fish to fry than this petty brat. That rival preens, acting like he actually intimidated Aster, which is just pure, unadulterated delusion. Looking down, Aster spots the broken remnants of his cheap sword lying in the dirt, picking up the jagged piece. He confirms the Academy's gear is absolute, bottom-tier garbage. Honestly, realizing Elmheim is behind this sabotage, he brushes off the annoyance with a cold glare, sprinting back to his camp. Aster finds the situation already spiraling into a total disaster. Gurion watches from the wall, noting that Nalan failed to even slow our boy down. They mocks Aster for his earlier solo act, acting like he expected way more. He points to the red flag, bragging that his team already secured 3 bases. Aster stares him down, unimpressed by the smug display of tactical dominance. Glancing around, he demands to know what happened to his own team members. Silence follows, but the tension is thick enough to cut with a dull blade. Suddenly, a sword tip presses against Aster's back, a classic betrayal move. His own teammate apologizes, claiming he never wanted to defy the mighty Elmheim house. Sweating, the guy admits he'd rather be a coward than an idiot fighting the main house. Gurion laughs from the wall, mocking the lack of resistance from the pathetic commoners. He insults Aster, wondering if he really thought numbers could beat their superior status. Holding up 2 fingers, Gurion declares the game is already over for his cousin. Rules dictate that securing 2 bases wins the exam, leaving Aster in a tight spot. Even if Aster runs around now, he lacks the manpower to hold any territory. A discarded blue flag lies in the dirt, the symbol of his failed team. Gurion maps out his strategy, waiting for Aster to move so he can strike. Smirking, the rival confirms that 2 bases are all they need to stay ahead. Aster shifts his stance, his eyes narrowing as he prepares to break the rules. Crimson energy flares in his gaze, promising a violent end to this little game. His opponents flinch, finally sensing the raw, lethal intent radiating from our boy. Gurion grins, convinced it is all just a bluff, right before the chaos erupts. They gloats over the broken sword, claiming 7 wings mean nothing without a decent blade. Surrounded by enemies, Aster faces the entire group while they prepare to jump him. Smirking at the trap, Aster admits they actually managed to catch him off guard, acknowledging the clever setup. Aster tells Gurion he is genuinely impressed by the sabotage. Gurion stares in disbelief, his smug confidence wavering as Aster remains completely unfazed. Casually tossing the hilt aside, Aster notes that his cousin actually planned this quite well, crimson eyes glowing with intensity. Aster declares his victory despite the obvious, rigged disadvantage. Shards of the cheap Academy sword scatter, leaving him weaponless in the middle of battle, golden eyes narrowing. Aster prepares to unleash his true power without any holding back. Turning to the crowd, he rallies the commoners to finally stand up against House Elmheim. One supporter screams for everyone to bet on the wingless underdog, shifting the arena mood. Hesitation grips the other candidates, realizing the power dynamic is shifting right before their eyes. Securing the first flag, Aster notes that he will not have to do everything alone anymore. Looking at the battlefield, he knows he needs a massive alliance to topple the house. Kneeling in the dirt, Gurion struggles to process the sudden turn of his perfect plan. A nervous subordinate approaches, asking if his lord is alright after the unexpected beatdown. Snapping in a rage, Gurion shoves the guy away, refusing to be touched by trash. Internal fury burns as Gurion realizes he cannot let a branch house nobody ruin him. Memories of his brother Gris haunt him, fueling his desperate need to prove his worth. Clenching his bloody fist, Gurion vows he will not let his story end in defeat. A mysterious challenger steps up, mocking the kneeling Elmheim lackey with pure cold arrogance. Aster looks on, his face showing the wear and tear of this brutal, endless exam. Nalan arrives on the scene, his presence instantly shifting the tension in the dusty arena. This frustrated lackey screams at Nalan, demanding to know why he abandoned their pathetic plan. Grinning through the chaos, the lackey still thinks they have the upper hand against Aster. Nalan admits that while Aster lacks the wing count, his raw swordsmanship is absolutely unmatched. Screaming in a blind rage, the lackey orders his men to just finish the job. Suddenly, a swift strike sends the lackey flying, his arrogance meeting a very sharp end. Nalan stands tall, declaring he is only here to return the favor to our boy. Disgusted by their dirty tactics, Nalan announces he is officially done with their twisted alliance. This lackey stumbles, completely stunned that his own partner is turning against him right now. Other candidates watch in horror, realizing the main house's influence is crumbling before their eyes. Nalan turns his attention to Aster, insisting they settle their own score in this exam. Gripping his blade, Nalan challenges Aster to show his true power and prove his worth. Aster stands ready, the tension between them crackling like a storm about to break loose. Golden energy flares around Nalan's sword, signaling he is not holding back a single bit. Lunging forward with blinding speed, Nalan forces Aster to react to his lethal, precise strike. Aster channels his crimson power, deciding he is not ready to reveal everything just yet. A massive clash of energy erupts, tearing through the arena as their blades finally meet. Nalan's eyes widen in shock, realizing he is completely outclassed by the monster before him. Aster drives his blade into the ground, shocking everyone with his sudden, overwhelming power. He stares down his rival, asking if the guy has already forgotten their true goal. Racing across the arena, Aster reminds everyone that only one team can pass this test. Gripping his sword, he insists they settle the score right here and right now. Honestly, Nolan listens, his expression unreadable as he processes the weight of Aster's bold, sudden challenge. Aster looks Nolan in the eye, declaring he wants his rival to become a knight. Stunned by the unexpected offer, Nolan asks what exactly the guy just said to him. Explaining his stance, Aster notes that riling everyone up against Elmheim is just not practical. A grin spreads across Aster's face as he claims he has a plan for everyone. Confusion ripples through the crowd. As the candidates wonder what kind of game he's playing, one candidate shouts in disbelief, questioning if Aster is actually serious about his insane proposal. Keeping his cool, Aster admits he cannot promise success but feels confident in his strategy. He steps toward the kneeling rival, clearly ready to start the next phase of play. Extending a hand, Aster invites his cousin to finally make up and join the cause. Flags flutter in the wind, marking the bizarre, unexpected alliance forming in the dusty arena. An instructor screams at the candidates, demanding to know why nobody knows how to flag. Aster calmly points out the rules, noting that nobody said only one team could win. Explaining the loophole, he reveals how the 3 teams joined forces to occupy every base. This instructor gets right in Aster's face, furious that he thinks this trick will work. Watching the confrontation, the other candidates realize their desperate plan was doomed from the start. Aster grills the proctor on basic military logic, asking if they just ignore enemy strongholds. He points out that if an enemy is worth more alive, you capture them instead. This proctor shouts that knights are the kingdom's sword, but Aster shuts that nonsense down. Aster asks if they plan to fail everyone since they have not actually broken any rules. That proctor stammers, clearly realizing his personal bias is way outside his actual authority. Aster leans in close, dropping the hammer on the guy's pathetic attempt at intimidation. He warns that if they flunk everyone, the main house nobles will definitely start screaming. Our boy watches the proctor squirm, enjoying the absolute meltdown of his fragile ego. Time drags on as the examiner stays gone, forcing everyone to wait in the hall. Nervous candidates tap their feet, wondering if they are actually going to be okay. Aster keeps his cool, though he admits it is hard to say if they pass. He reminds the group that they at least proved they are worth discussing right now. This other candidates huddle, still shocked that the rich boy actually agreed to help. One teammate asks what Aster said to pull that off, dying for the inside scoop. Aster just flashes a smug grin, keeping his cards close to his chest for now. Suddenly, the doors fly open as the proctor returns, demanding everyone's full attention. He announces that the headmaster Mimir is finally ready to drop the exam results. Mimir steps forward, looking stern as he prepares to address the entire anxious crowd.